Hi there, welcome to Kneppy Invests. Really interesting times. We've seen the markets over the past few weeks. I hope you haven't sold out of all your holdings in your portfolio. I do know a few people who did that. They got a little bit freaked out that we saw the market down big over a few days, and that definitely would have been a mistake because the market has rebounded quite well over the last few days, particularly the NASDAQ and higher risk companies. In fact, my portfolio was down about 6% up until 3 trading days ago. And then over the last three trading days, my portfolio has rebounded well, up about 8% during that time, particularly those high-risk companies. And one of those companies is Neuron Pharmaceuticals. I wouldn't actually describe Neuron Pharmaceuticals as a high risk. I think it's really good value right now because they have a lot of money coming in and the future looks really great for that company. But the share price of Neuron Pharmaceuticals dropped to about $2.90 at its low, but has rebounded back to nearly $4 over the last few trading days. So that's an almost 33% rise in the share price during that time period. But the whole point of this video today is not talking about what's happening in the market. It's talking about a company that has just released their Appendix 4C for the December quarter, and that is Ansarada. This company has only been listed on the ASX for about a year or just over a year. And for full disclosure purposes, I have taken a position in this company. And the reason I took a position in Ansarada about 5-6 months ago was a technical signal. We'll talk about that when we look at the chart. But I have been surprised about how they've been performing financially. And we'll have a look at that and talk about that when we look at their most recent December quarter. But before we talk about Ansarada, something exciting did happen to me today in regards to Kneppy Invests and my channel. So let's talk about that right now. Now, if you don't know, I usually tweet my videos. So whenever I do a video, I'll send out a tweet, not all the time, but I am a little bit selective on what videos I will tweet. So that's all I do on my Twitter account is just tweet about videos I do. And today was the first day a company I did a video on actually liked my tweet or my video, and that was Dropsuite in regards to a video I did on their Appendix 4C, why Dropsuite is worthy of a closer look, great growth, $15 million in recurring revenue, and operational cash flow positive. Now, more than likely they didn't watch my video, it was just the title of the video itself they did like. So it would have been even better if they retweeted my tweet, but simple fact is they're the first company that has liked my tweet that I did a video on. Anyway, so let's get into Ansarada. And before we talk about their Appendix 4C and all that jazz, just a few facts in regards to the company. Now, Ansarada, I actually do know the history behind this company because they've been around for about 16, almost 17 years. And it all started when a software developer and 2 accountants got together because they were really frustrated about the lack of virtual data rooms. And virtual data rooms seem like they're very important when it comes to mergers and acquisitions. And you just think about the mergers and acquisition process, which can take a long time. Now, I'm no expert in this process, but I would imagine it could take longer than a year. And when you are going through a merger and acquisition, it's very important you know about the financial state and information about the other company in the deal. And that's what a virtual data room is all about. You allow access to the other company, to all your information about your particular company. And this software developer and these 2 accountants were really frustrated about the lack of virtual data rooms available to them. So they got involved with Entrepreneur, and that's thus Ansarada was founded. Now, I didn't know the history behind the name Ansarada, but when you go to the Ansarada website, they actually give you how they came up with the name. And it's all to do with the first 2 letters of each founder's name, and that is Rachel, Andrew, Daphne, and Sam. If you take the first 2 letters from all their names, you come up with Ansarada. Now, usually when I don't know much about a company, and more than likely the company and what they do will never have or play a role in my life. And because Ansarada is all about virtual data rooms and I won't have the need for a virtual data room in my life, I do like this sort of information the company does provide to the world, to the shareholders, and to anyone who's doing research on the company. Because Very simply, it goes through the use cases, the products they have, the critical information management for. So for instance, the use cases for Ansarada and their platform, which is a virtual data room, is transactional lifecycle management, board management. So this helps boards of companies, asset lifecycle management, compliance management, tenders lifecycle management, funds lifecycle management, and it goes through the products and all the sort of critical information as well. So this sort of information I do like a company to provide us to give us a better understanding of what they exactly do. Now to some facts in regards to Ansarada. We already know they were founded in 2005, and I've already told you that they haven't been listed all that long on the ASX. That was 9th of December 2020 via the Dockyard. Now, if you look at some of the announcements, it mentions the Dockyard actually acquired Ansarada, but this was more of a backdoor listing. Ansarada was the biggest company, or the bigger company, and they wanted access to the public markets. So they backdoored into the Dockyard. Dockyard at that point in time, I don't think was a viable company moving forward. So that is, in my opinion, a backdoor listing. The current CEO is Sam Riley, and he was the entrepreneur out of those 4 people. He has a 5.6% holding in the company, and the largest shareholder, or one of the largest shareholders, is the software developer, Andrew Slavin. He's a 7.4% holding, and more than likely the other 2 co-founders have a fairly large holding in this company as well. And one of the other largest shareholders is Net Wealth with a 4.8% stake in the company. The current market cap of Ansarada at $2.05 does seem really good or low for me, 182 million. This company is operational cash flow positive, and I think will become profitable, if it already is profitable, in the next financial year. And that does seem good value for me right now. Now, the growth could be argued might want to be a little bit higher. We'll talk about that during the next few slides. And the ticker code for Ansarada is AND. Now let's have a look at some of the financials of Ansarada. This is financial year 21 numbers comparing to financial year 20. And when we look at revenue, I've already mentioned you could argue there is not a lot of growth in this company, and revenue only grew from 32.9 million to 33.1 million. But margins did increase during the financial year. So operating cash flow increased from 4.6 million to 6.5 million. Gross profit margins increased from 92% to 96.5%. I'm going to ignore net profit after tax because in financial year 20, they were unprofitable by 26 million. They've improved that to 640,000. In regards to Ansarada, the thing I'm most concerned about is operating cash flow and revenue growth. Profits in this case can be manipulated up or down, and legally manipulated up or down, because more than likely the financial year 20 net profit after tax of negative 26 million was just a one-off, and you've got to really ignore those one-offs. Net cash of 22.6 million at the end of financial year 21, and EV to operating cash flow and price to sales ratio, 2 valuation metrics I do look at, are not too stretched, either high or low, probably fairly valued when you look at those numbers. EV to operating cash flow of 22.8 and price to sales ratio of 5.2. Before we have a look at the most recent quarterly report for Ansarada, I just want to go back 1 year ago to see how they're performing that quarter, and then compare it to the most recent quarter to see if there is some good growth in some of these numbers. And back in their first quarter, that they did release an Appendix 4C, the December quarter of financial year 20, receipts to customers 9.4 million, and the company was not operational cash flow positive at this point in time, negative 2.3 million. More than likely, I had not taken notice to Ansarada at this point in time, simply because this was their first Appendix 4C, and I want to see at least a few quarters of history before I become excited in a company. Now, because they did backdoor onto the ASX and raise $45 million, cash on hand increased to $21 million from $9.7 million, and they also paid back $20 million in loans. Now to the most recent quarter, and this company is growing based off their receipts. Receipts up $5 million from 1 year ago up to $14.5 million. And more importantly, costs are not increasing at the same rate as receipts. So product manufacturing operating costs down $300,000, advertising and marketing up $1.2 million, staff costs down $2.2 million, which was surprising. Usually expect staff costs to go up as the company grows, and administration costs up $600,000. They also spent $5.3 million on acquisition, and it seems like they spend a fair bit of money on intellectual property every quarter. For this particular quarter, it was $1.2 million. No, but overall, this company was operational cash flow positive by $4.2 million. So that does seem fairly high for a company with a market cap of only $180 million. And if they can continue this going through the next few quarters, I do see a little bit of value here. But because they did do an acquisition of $5.3 million, and even though they were operational cash flow positive, the cash on hand in the business did fall from $23 million to $20.9 million. Now, something else I did find interesting in their commentary was in regards to the lack of growth in customers and subscribers. In fact, customers grew at 0% for the quarter. Looks like 9 more customers, and subscribers grew by 1%, increasing from 2,707 to 2,738. Now, this just might be a 1 quarter blip, and we can expect back to some good growth numbers in the next quarter. However, more importantly, is the reason we did see some good growth in receipts and revenue for this company was the average revenue per customer actually grew 24% for the quarter. So they're getting more out of each customer they do have. So even though the customer base has not grown, the overall business has grown because of that average revenue per customer has grown over the past quarter. When I look at the receipts history of a company, I prefer to see at least 8 quarters of history, which is 2 years. And for Ansarada, we're up to 5 quarters. But there is a definite trend here with the company. Receipts are growing through time. You might say it's growing slowly, but every single quarter we've had, we have seen cash receipts larger than the previous quarter. And in fact, it's grown $5 million from 1 year ago. So even though it might look slow growth, it is actually pretty good growth. So this is exactly what I want to see for a company I do own. I want to see cash receipts and revenue grow through time. Now, the main reason I took a position in Ansarada wasn't the financial state. It was just a technical signal I received towards the end of July or start of August of last year. And this is the daily chart for the company going back to when they listed. And the share price actually did fall a fair bit during the first 6 or 7 months they were a publicly listed company, falling from about $1.80 all the way to a low of just under $1 in April of last year. But then the share price started to turn, and we had confirmation that the trend had shifted to positive, and we did see more positive sentiment come into the business towards the middle or end of July. We saw a golden cross in the 2 moving averages I show you in this chart, which is the 50-day and the 100-day moving average. And that was around the time I took a position in Ansarada. And we have seen the share price rise from then. It was about $1.30 when I took a position, and current share price is $2.05. Hasn't been a smooth ride up. We've seen some highs and lows, particularly just before October. So that's during September. We did see the share price fall from $1.75 to $1.40, but some really good times during October. We saw a lot of hype in this company, and that hype saw the share price rise from $1.40 all the way to a high of $2.30. Now, we have seen 2 really good buying opportunities in the last few months. And that buying opportunities was a good level of support right on $1.75. And we saw the share price fall below $1.75 a couple of times in December, and then a couple of times in the last week during the overall weakness in the market. And each time the share price fell below $1.75, we saw a fair bit of buying coming in. And that's why you see those one-day candlesticks with those large lower bound tails. That's telling us there's a lot of buying coming in during those days. And we have seen the share price rally over the last few trading days, moving up from about $1.75 to a current share price of $2.05. So still, the uptrend is intact with this company. And unless I see a lot more negative sentiment coming into the share price, unless I see the move from an upwards trend to a downwards trend, no reason for me to sell out of this company right now, particularly when we do have some good financial news coming out of the company in the last Appendix 4C. That's all I have for this video on Ansarada, looking at Appendix 4C December quarter. I've got to rush because I'm doing this video on my lunch break, if you can believe it. One of the benefits of working from home, and I have about 10 minutes left before my lunch break comes to an end. So if you do have any questions, leave in the comment section of this video. Otherwise, last thing I should also mention is I'm not a financial advisor. If you do need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.